and ensure that you are confident and compliant when submitting your bids electronically. So as we all know, for the beginning of the financial year, the government rolled out the EGP system, whereby all procuring entities are required to float all their tenders in the electronic platform. And that once the tenders are floated, you as suppliers will be required, or you'll be encouraged to participate in these tenders. And I'm going to start my presentation by taking you to the homepage of the EGP portal. And as you can see, I hope I'm projecting. So if you go to the homepage, even before you log in as a supplier, there's some information that have been given out in the home page. You have tenders, you have contracts, you have procuring entities, suppliers, procurement plan, disposal plan, e-auction, and catalog. In this instance, we are going to concentrate on the first tab, that is the tender, the fourth tab, that is the suppliers, where you belong, and the procurement plans. All procuring entities are required in the beginning of the financial year to come up with their procurement plans for that financial year on how they intend to spend money issued to them, the government. And you as suppliers, we are encouraged to always click on the procurement plans. I open, it's populate for you all the procurement plans that have been submitted by various procuring entities. And you can open these procurement plans. Let's say, for example, the first procurement plan that has been projected here is for the State House. And it has shown you the number. So if you are interested in what to know what the State House intends to procure for this financial year, you just open the plan, and you can scroll through. You can scroll through in two ways: either the annual procurement plan summary, or the item details. So this is how you'll be knowing what a particular entity intends to buy for that financial year. You can scroll and see the estimated cost, the procurement method to be used. Is it reserved for AGPO? And if it's reserved for AGPO, which particular group of AGPO? And the quantities that they project to buy in the various quarters. We all know that the year of the government is divided into 4 quarters. So as you can see, this procuring entities has 4 quarters, and they have populated their quantities into those 4 quarters. This will be for your information purposes, so that you can know if you're looking for business, where to go, who to visit, and on which tenders to be on the lookout for. So if I go back, it takes me back to the homepage. The fourth button is for the suppliers. If you click on it, you'll see all the suppliers that have been registered in the EGP platform. All of them. These are the name of the suppliers. And since this is a training environment, that is why we have suppliers name as 1, 2, 3, 4, because this is a training environment. So, and the first now, the reason why we are here today, our first, the interest of the suppliers will be on the first button, that is the tenders. If you click on it, you'll see all the tenders that have been advertised by various procuring entities. Let's say, for example, the first one, tender for chart projector for financial year 2025-2026. It has the ID, tender ID. It has the tender reference number, the tender title, the procuring entity, the procurement category. Is it goods? Is it non-consultancy? Is it works? It will be shown there. And then the procurement method, that is this one. For this one is request for proposal. It also shows the start date and time, and also the tender end date and time. So if you're interested in this tender, what you'll come and do, you can view the notice. You can view the tender notice. This will show you the tender title, the procuring entities, the person who you can contact, and all those details. As you scroll down, you get to find a brief description of what this tender is about and how the evaluation will be done. The tender submission, the technical evaluation process, this tender is on a yes or no basis. Preference, is joint venture applicable, or is subcontracting applicable? Bid evaluation. It also shows you if the tenders and performance security are required. And very important, the key dates regarding these tenders. So once you open the tender notice, that kind of information is given there. So for today, I want us to be interested to focus on tender number, let me look for that, the tender I want us to concentrate on for today. We are going to be interested in tender number 17. In tender number 17, just the same details I have read to you before. It shows you the tender number, the tender ID number, sorry, the tender reference, the title, the procuring entity, the procurement category, the procurement method, start date and time, end date and time. So we start by viewing the view tender notice. Just like the previous one we have just looked at. It gives you the general details of that tender. So I have opened the view tender notice. So we have the general details of this tender. As I scroll down, I'll also see the tender submission, how the PE intends this tender to be submitted. The bidding type for this tender is national bidding. So this is only open to suppliers that are within our borders, that is the Republic of Kenya. The technical evaluation process, we have the yes and no. The preference, not applicable. Does joint venture apply? No. Subcontracting, also not applicable. The bid evaluation, item-wise. Tender security, it's applicable. Performance security, not applicable, because this is a supply and delivery of goods. It's a one-off kind of tender. And then it gives you the key date. This tender was advertised on 16th of September at 12 p.m. The pre-bid clarification end date is 19th of September, 13:45 p.m. Tender submission start date, that is when the portal allows to start submitting your bid on 16th of September, 12 p.m. Tender submission end date is 19th September at 4 p.m. Kindly note that the EGP will not be allowing suppliers to bid or to submit their bid after the elapse of tender submission end date and time. So if in this instance somebody comes and tries to submit a tender on 19th September 16:05, that bid will not be accepted. Then it also shows you when the PE intends to open that tender. It will be open on 19th September at 16:01 p.m. So that is the information the tender notice will provide. It's important to go through those so that, especially on the key date, so you can be aware on the time frame that you have. So I'll go to that tender. It was tender number 17, serial number 17. So we have viewed the information on that tender. You can download the tender document so that you can be able to know the particulars of this tender. So once you download the document, the following information. The tender document will be downloaded. The first thing you open is the evaluation and qualification criteria. It gives you a PDF on evaluation and qualification criteria to see what the PE requires for you. This part shows you the mandatory and the technical requirements that are needed by this particular PE. We have the evaluation type. The first one is the serial. This section contains all methods, criteria, and requirements that the procuring entity shall use to evaluate application. The first one is the mandatory, where the PE requires you to submit your valid tax compliance certificate, a valid trade license, CR12 within the tendering period, certificate of registration. We also have the technical criteria, which is the other is the title of this tender was supply and delivery of personal computers. So the technical evaluation criteria, they expect you to provide the type of processor is ICO 17, screen size 14 inches, screen display, touch screen, CPU type, removable. Once you are through with that, you understand the criteria that the PE requests, you can close it. Go back to the tender document as you had downloaded it. The second document it has is the mandatory evaluation criteria, requirement, sorry. So you open it and it's going to give you all the requirements that the PE has input as their requirement. Just as read it before, you have the self-declaration form, the valid tax compliance certificate, the valid trade license, CR12 within the tendering period, certificate of registration / incorporation. We go back to the tender document and we have submitted. It also gives you a schedule of requirement. These are documents given by the PE. Specification, you open, it will give you a brief description of the specification that are required by the PE for those particular goods that they want to purchase. So we close once we read through the technical requirements of the item the PE want, and we are okay with it, we close that document. And now, since we are familiar with what this PE wants and we feel that we're interested in participating in this tender, what you'll do is you'll come still on the home page and then you click login. So it gives you a window where you input your details. This is now I'm going to log in as for my company. You'll get an OTP on your phone, the one you used to register. You input the OTP and you verify, and it will take you to your homepage and your company. So in this instance, we want to participate in a tender that has been floated by an organization. I will explain. So we are interested in tenders. So on the left side, on the green, the one that is colored green, there's the tab for tenders. So what you do, you click on the tender. It populates another button that says search. You click on it, and it populates two buttons. We have the open tender and then the alternative tenders. I repeat, I go back. Once you have logged in, I understand there's an issue with the sound. Let me try and see. I add my volume. I hope that's better. So I go back to tenders. I click on tenders, search. It populates two buttons, that is the open tender and alternative tendering method. For open tenders, once you click on it, it will show you all the open tenders as different entities have advertised them. These are the tenders that have been published by different entities. As you can see, the first one has been advertised by 001, the judiciary. The second one has been advertised by KISIM, State Corporation. So you can be receiving these tenders as per the procuring entities. So, and then there's the other method of procuring method. We have the request for quotation and also the tendering, the restricted tenderings. If you have been invited in these two type of tender, that is the RFQ and the restricted, you're going to be finding those tenders in the alternative tendering method. If you have been invited to participate in an RFQ or in a restricted tender, your tenders are going to be in the tab of alternative tendering methods. As we can see, this supplier has not been invited in any of those two, so the tab is empty. But if we go back to the open tenders, there are various tenders we have, and they must be in the active category for you to participate. Once a tender has been closed or cancelled, you cannot be able to participate. So for this instance, there are 9 active tenders that this bidder is allowed or have been invited to submit their bid. So again, we look for the tenders for our procuring entities. Kindly note that we are in the training environment. Kindly do not log in your live, because as we know, only PPRA has advertised for a tender, which is request for quotation. So only those bidders that were invited for that particular tendering method can be able to participate. But in this instance, we are in the training environment, and that is why we have 9 active tenders. So if you're trying to log in your live portal, no tenders have been advertised yet. So kindly just participate in the training environment, watch as what we are doing, so that when you have tenders that will be coming from next week or next week, but one, you already know how to be filling this bids document. So as I was saying, I'm going to look for the tenders that we had just gone through. So I'm going to look for it. Remember, you should have taken a note on the tender number and the procuring entities and all those other details that have been provided. So I'm going to search for it. Here is my tender. It was supply and delivery of personal computers. The tender number ID, the reference. Does it have an addendum? Yes, it has one addendum. The entity, the procurement category, the procurement method, when it was advertised, the start date, and the closing date, sorry. So what you need to do, remember we had viewed the tender notice earlier before we logged in as the supplier. So we have already viewed this button, which was giving us the general details, the tender submission, tender document fees and tender security, and the key dates. So we already know when this tender will be closed. So we go back. So having looked at the tender document, remember I downloaded this tender document, I went through, and I feel that I'm capable of participating in this tender. So if you feel you have gone through the document and you feel that you want to participate in this tender, you have viewed the tender notice, you come to manage tender. And again, this tab also gives you an avenue of downloading the document again as we had downloaded it in the home page. But now this one, you'll be downloading it in your supplier homepage. Remember the first one, we downloaded it in the EGP homepage, but this instance, this supplier has already logged in. He has the view tender notice, manage tender, and download document. So I want to participate in this tender. So where do I go? I will go to manage tender. Once I click on manage tender, this information will populate. Remember the information that was being given in the home page? It's now listed up. The tender ID, the tender reference number, the procuring entity, procurement method, the notice type, bid submission end date and time, and the title of this tender. So again, you can view the notice and you can download the document again. So the first thing you do is, the first button is terms and condition. So you click on the terms and condition. You open terms and condition. You read through the terms and condition. Kindly, you have to read through the terms and condition of this particular tender. And once you have read the terms and condition, and you feel that you still want to participate in this tender, you click on I agree. Kindly note that you cannot proceed until you agree to the terms and conditions of this tender. So for this instance, I agree with the terms and conditions, so I will click on I agree. It gives me terms and conditions accepted successfully. So I scroll down. I have finished on the first tab on the terms and condition. Systematically, I go to the second tab, that is the pre-bid. On this pre-bid is where you have read through the document. Remember when we downloaded the document, we looked at it, and you feel that there's something that is not clear. You feel that something is not clear, and you want to communicate to the PE for them to give you a clarification. Let me go back and show you something on the key dates. You see this key date here? The procuring entity have given you a windows on whereby you can ask questions regarding that tender. And once this time frame has reached, you cannot be able to ask for any clarification. But if you're within the period of this time, you can go back to the tender. And if something is not clear, you come to the pre-bid, click on pre-bid, and then post. So if the issue you need clarification on, it has all of them. Kindly give us an opportunity to find out what's happening with our mic, and then we get back to you. I hope you can hear me now. All right. So we go back. Remember, we were raising a query. We want some clarification from the PE, that's the procuring entity. So you have to zero in on where you have a query on. So let's say, for example, my query is on evaluation criteria, which in section 3. So I come and type section 3. The type of query. Remember, there are those technical specifications that the PE has given out. So I'm just going to type a query that I need this entity to clarify on. So I type my query. So I have requested, since they require the entities to provide technical minimum specification of ICO 7, but I feel that there's another processor that is available in the market, which is within the same minimum specification they have requested. And I feel that if I provide this alternative item, if it will be meet the equivalent requirement by the PE. Remember, this is your question. You are framing this question depending on the item that the PE wants to procure vis-a-vis what you feel can be of the same standard but worded differently. So if this is my query and I click submit. Once you have done that, this query goes to the procuring entity, that is the head of procurement in that procuring entity, and they are obligated to give you a reply before the closure of that tender period. So we are done with the pre-bid. We have asked our question. And as we wait for the response, we are going to continue with our tender preparation. So the third tab is the mandatory evaluation requirement. Kindly be working through your tender document systematically. You finish the first tab, you come to the second tab and moving down step by step. So we are on the third tab, mandatory evaluation requirement. You click on it. You click on the mandatory evaluation requirement again. And the requirements that the PE wants will be populated. Remember, this is what we are calling the preliminary evaluation, or what we call the mandatory requirements. So on the first one, as you can see, you have the serial number, mandatory evaluation requirement, the reference document, a statement asking you whether you have complied or not complied. Is the reference document required? And upload the document. So on the first instance, the self-declaration form has been embedded in the document. So you will just be needing to download it, fill, scan, and upload it. I repeat, the self-declaration form, that is the SD1 and 2, have been embedded in the document. So you will just need to download it, print it, fill it, scan, and upload it again. So in my instance, the first thing I'll say, I have downloaded the document. I have complied, and then I attach the document that I've downloaded, filled, scanned back, and uploaded. So I have uploaded my self-declaration document, and when I hover on this tab, it can show me what I have downloaded. The second document that this PE requires is a valid tax compliance certificate. I come, do I have it? Yes. And I upload my tax compliance certificate. Remember, it will always be wise to keep all your documents in one place, like a folder, so that once that document is required, it will be easier for you to retrieve it and upload it. So the third document this PE requires is a valid trace license. Do I have it? Yes. And then I upload it. the CR12 within the tendering period. This tendering period is, the PEs normally require suppliers to upload a current CR12. A current CR12. So don't upload, if this is a perimeter the PE has given, please do not upload a document that is more than 6 months old. They actually require, when that tender was advertised, let's say the tender was advertised in September, and the documents need to be submitted in November, you can upload a CR12 that is within those 2 months period. At the very least, maybe 1 month old, but the CR12 must be current. So on this instance, do I have a CR12 that is within the tendering period? I come, I say yes. I go to the upload tab. I choose a file. And upload it. The last document this PE requested is Certificate of Registration and Corporation. Again, do I have this document? Yes. Upload it. So if API requires that the document you are uploading should be certified by a commissioner of oath, kindly have your document certified by a commissioner of oath or an advocate, and then upload that document. In my instance, this PE did not request for the document to be certified by an advocate. So that is why my document have not been certified by an advocate. If you are a sole proprietorship, that is why we have certificate of registration or business, it's normally called business certificate. That is what you are going to upload. So I look again. If let's say, for example, on number 2, it had requested for tax compliance certificate, but when I hover at it, it says, let's say, for example, let me download something different. So number 2, it requires a valid tax compliance certificate. But mistakenly, I have uploaded my CR12 there. So what you'll need to do, you just click on the choose file and select the correct document and upload it. As simple as that. So if you notice that you have attached the wrong document, just go to the right document, attach it, and the old document that you had attached previously is going to be disabled and the new document will be uploaded. So once I'm satisfied at this juncture, I'm going to click on submit. And it tells you that the mandatory evaluation submitted successfully. So we are through with tab number 1, tab number 2, tab number 3, and now our 4th tab is the tender security. So you know that normally procuring entities require tender security for you to participate in their tenders. So if a tender requires tender security, it will have a tab here. So what you'll do, you click on it, and 2 things populate. The first one is select item for tender security. Let's work step by step. The first one, select items for tender security. I click on it. This tender only requires 1 item. But if, for example, it had 5 items, you'll only tick those items that you want to participate in. If my tender had, this tender had 5 items and I'm only interested in 1 item in that tender, I'll only select to purchase a tender security for that particular item. So on this one, the item is 1. It has given the UNSP code, the item description, and the tender security amount. So on the item summary, it tells me I have selected 1 item and the total amount to be paid is 500 shillings. I click on submit. It brings me now to a table where I will have to select my bank information. Where am I going to buy this tender security from? In my instance, this supplier banks with Absa, Kenya. So I'll click on there. All the banks will be populated here. Remember, all tenders for all PEs will come from banks and it will be electronically. So you select your bank. You select your branch. Remember, all banks have branches and we belong in various branches. So my branch is Queensway House branch. The tender security is that. The currency is the Kenya shillings. And the remark. What do you intend this bank to do for you? So in my instance, I have prepared a statement. This is not cast on stone. So I'm going to read what I've said. We kindly request your institution to issue a bid security in favor of State Corporation for Public Investment and Asset Management for Kenya shillings 500 as required under tender number that for supply and delivery of personal computers. I close it. The validity date. So on the tender date, on that validity date, you can increase this validity. So let's say, for example, I want for 130 days or 180 days. Remember, you're communicating to your bank on how they should, the tender validity date, where you require this tender security, the currency you require it at, the tender security amount as requested by the PEs, your branch, and your bank. Once you have input the details correctly, you click on submit. This request has been given a number and it has gone to your bank, and the bank will be in the process of processing for you your tender security. Remember, you can communicate through the bank manager offline of the system for them to be processing as you're preparing your tender document. So in this instance, I have already communicated with my bank. They are already processing my bid security, and you will see how it will come into play. So we have done with the 4th tab, that is the tender security. We now go to the 5th tab of bid preparation. Kindly pay attention here because this is where 90% of the document you're preparing, the 90% of the work is done at this tab, the bid preparation. So I click on it, I open, so because I'm ready now to start preparing my bid. Once you open bid preparation, it brings you to the non-financial forms. It has the serial number, the form name, action, status, and the reference document. The first one is the form of tender. So the action is fill. you see the status is pending. So you click on fill. It will require you to input some information. It will require you to give some information. The first information it will require is the date of the quotation. This is the date that you are filling in the tender document. Today is 18th September 2025. Hello. The tender's description, it's up here. Yeah. So it's supply and delivery of personal computers. So I select, remember all the information about this particular tender, the information is always up here. So I will click on the tender title, I copy, and I paste it here. The tender description. The third thing it requires is the tender reference number. The tender reference number is on top here. So you just come and select it. And paste. Remember how we normally say that the form of tender must be filled and signed. So the date of the quotation, we have inputted, tender description, and also tender reference number. So once we are done with that, we have the tenderer declaration. We are required to read through all this declaration, and the first one is no reservation. We have examined the request for quotation document and have no reservation and understand its full content and intent. Declaration number 2, that is B, eligibility. We confirm that we are eligible to participate in the public procurement and meet the eligibility criteria specified in Part 1, instruction to tenderers. You remember we downloaded those documents, and at this point, we are assuming that we have read. Conformity. We offer to supply in conformity with C, tendering document in accordance with the delivery schedule specified in the tender requirement and technical specification. D, code of ethical conduct. We declare that we have read and understood the content of the code of conduct, code of ethics for person participating in the public procurement and asset disposal, and our responsibilities under the code, and we commit to abide by the provisions of the code of ethics. Copy available from the PPRA website during the procurement process and the execution of any resulting contract. The second declaration, price validity. We confirm that the price quoted are fixed and the firm for the duration of the validity period and performance of the contract and will not be subject to revision or variation. Validity period. Our quotation will be valid for the period specified in ITT 2 as amended if applicable, and shall remain binding upon us and may be accepted at any time before the expiration of that period. The other declaration, one quotation per tenderer. We confirm that we are not submitting any other quotation as an individual or firm, and we are not participating in any other quotation as a joint venture member or as a subcontractor. Suspension and debarment. We, along with any of our subcontractor, suppliers, engineers, manufacturers, or service provider for any part of this contract are not subject to and have not been controlled by any entity or individual that is subject to a temporary suspension or a debarment imposed by the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, the PPRA, or any other entity or government of Kenya, or any international organization. The other statement is on fraud and corruption. We hereby certify that we have taken steps to ensure that no person acting for us or on our behalf engages in any type of fraud or corruption. Further, we confirm that we have read and understood the full context and scope of fraud and corruption as formed in Appendix 1, Fraud and Corruption. Anti-competitive and collusion practices. We hereby certify and confirm that the tender is genuine, non-collusive, and made with intention of accepting the contract if awarded. We have arrived at the tender independently, without consultation, communication, agreement, or arrangement with any competitor on, but not limited to, prices, method, factors or formula used to calculate prices, the intention or decision to submit or not to submit a tender, or the submission of the tender which do not meet the specification of the request for tenders, except as disclosed in the tendering eligibility confidential business questionnaire. Second last declaration is on the beneficial ownership information. We commit to provide the procuring entity the beneficial ownership information in conformity with the beneficial ownership disclosure form upon receipt of notification of intention to enter into a contract in the event we are successful tenderer in this subject procurement proceeding. The last declaration, we, the tenderer, have completed fully and signed the form for disclosure of interest of the firm akin to the procuring entity attached below. The third segment of this form of tender is the price, the total price of our tender, including any discount offered, is as follows. Remember, this procuring entity is requesting for a specific item. So let's say, for example, for the desktop computers, I feel that with the specification requested, I can comfortably offer this equipment or this the desktop computers at 125,000. I input the currency. Remember, in our tender security, the PE had given in the currency that it would require. And then we all know about the capacity building levy that was introduced at the beginning of this financial year. Then we have applicable taxes. That is the taxes that are applicable when you are purchasing this item. So let's say, for example, I have calculated my taxes and they give an absolute figure of 200. The system will calculate for me. My item, this is the unit price I intend to buy, the currency, the capacity building levy, and the applicable taxes. Once you have done that, you move to commissions and gratuities. Do you intend to give any commissions? If not, you leave the space blank. Remember, it does not have an asterisk, so it's not a must you fill it. On the fourth segment is about, are we a state-owned enterprise? So the statement says, are we a state-owned enterprise or institution, but meet the following requirements: legal and the financial autonomy, operation under the commercial law, and we are not under the supervision of the procuring entity. I'm going to assume we are all independent suppliers. We are not under any government entity. So in my instance, I'm going to click no. The second statement is, we are not a state-owned enterprise or institution. Automatically, this becomes yes. So if any of us that have joined this training has come from an agency that is owned by the state, let's say, for example, the hotels that are operated by government through the Ministry of Tourism, or the Kenya School of Government that is owned by the State Department for the Kenya School of Government that normally also gives conference facilities. So if we are a state agent, if those people have logged in, your answer will be yes and no, because you are a state owned. But since in my instance, I'm a private company, I'm going to say no, and automatically here it's going to be a yes. The last segment in the form of tender is confirmation and certification. And the statement is, we confirm that the information provided above is correct, and we are understand that giving false information will lead to disqualification of our tender. And your response will be, if that is your statement, will be yes. And then the person who is filling this tender on your behalf, let's say, for example, if this is a company, the director or your manager, the person who have given the powers of attorney to fill this document is the one now who is going to come and fill in his or her details. So in my company, it's owned by 3 directors. So the first director that was given power of attorney will be Madam Jane. Madam Jane Juma. She's a director. And then the date when they are filling this form of tender. The document has given you an embedded calendar. So you'll just choose the date you're filling your tender and then submit. Once you have satisfied that you have filled this form of tender correctly and you have not left any part blank, and if it's blank, it is not required, it does not apply to you, you click on submit. We go back to the bid preparation. And as you can see, the first instance, since I have filled it, the status changed to filled, and it has populated different field. You can view what you have done. You can view the form of tender as you have filled it. You go back. You can also edit. If you feel that you have omitted something, you can go back and edit. Once you click on edit, you have to submit. You can upload a document if the PE had requested it, but since they had not requested, you do not have to. It's not mandatory. The second segment is tender information and confidential business questionnaire. You want to fill it because the status is pending. So you click on fill. You start from up. The first perimeter that you need to fill is the tenderer's details. So this is the tenderer detail. I'm going to input the name of my company. The tenderer actual or intended country of origin. Where is this agency registered? It's registered in Kenya. When was it registered? The tenderer year of registration, let's say 2024. The tenderer legal address in country of registration. PO Box 100 Westlands, Kenya. That is my legal address. Tender authorized representation information. As I said, who has been given the power of attorney in this company? It's Madam Jane Juma. The address, I can repeat the address of the company. The phone number of Madam Jane. And the email address of the person registered, filling in the information for this tender. To give him the email address. So if this company was for a sole proprietor, they will come and give in the information of the director, his age, nationality, country of origin, and citizenship. If it was a partnership, we'll come and fill in your details. The first, the name of the supplier, let's say the name of the first partner. Let's say, for example, this is a partnership, Juma, Jane Juma. Nationality, she's a Kenyan. Nationality, Kenya. Citizenship, Kenya. Percentage of shares owned. Let's say, for example, this particular member has 70% shares. For it to be a partnership, it requires how many people? 2. So what you'll come and do is you'll add a row. As you can see, we have a tab to add a row. So, and come and say, the second one is Juma Musa. And repeat the nationality, Kenya, and percentage, the remaining percentage for it to be 130. So you can add as many rows as you need, but remember for partnership, normally there are only 2 members, but in my instance, this company is not under partnership. So I'm going to delete this. This was just for demonstration purposes. Now we come to registered companies. You select whether you are a public company or a private company. In this instance, mine is a private company, so I click on private, and then state the nominal and issued capital of the company. So we all know about the nominal company. These are a maximum amount of shares that your company is authorized to issue to shareholders as per your registration certificate. So For my company, let's say, for example, I've been authorized to give 5 million. And then what have you issued? Remember, what is nominal is what the maximum amount you have been authorized. But we also have the issued, what you have already given out to your shareholders. Let's say, for example, we have given out 3 million. This should match your company registration document and your CL12 as you have been issued them. So after I fill that, the details of the directors. The first director is for my company is Jane Juma. Nationality is Kenyan. She's from Kenya. And shares owned. Let's say, for example, let me just correct something here. Thank you. The percentage of shares owned, I'll say 70%. I add a row for the second director. I fill in the tab. %. I can add another director, as many as they are in this. Remember, we had attached our CL12 earlier. So depending on the numbers of directors that are in our CL12, you're supposed to fill in all their names at this point. So if there were 5, you will add rows until you have been able to populate all the 5 directors. But in my instance, my CL12 has 2 directors. So I'm going to remain with 2 directors and as I have filled them. Remember, you have to input the percentage of shares owned by each director. Disclosure of interest. Remember, we are filling in a business questionnaire, right? If we go up, we are filling tenderers information and confidential business questionnaire. So if there is any conflict of interest between you as a supplier and the procuring entity that have floated this tender. Let's say, for example, the son of Jane Juma works in this company. So I'll come, input his name here. Designation in the procuring entity, maybe he's a driver. He can have any title. Interest, I say he's my son. Once you have declared this conflict of interest, it's up to the procuring entity to know whether Mr. Juma has any control or he can influence the decision of this PE in awarding this tender. Remember, if you have a conflict of interest when participating in a tender, you have to declare that interest. So in this instance, this was just for demonstration purposes, so I'm just going to leave it blank. Then conflict of interest disclosure. There are a number of statements that have been given. Tenderer is directly or indirectly controlled by, let me go back, controlled by or is under common control with another tenderer. I read again. Tenderer is directly or indirectly controlled by or is under common control with another tenderer. Are you working with another tenderer to submit this tender to this procuring entity? You can either say yes or no. If you say yes, you're requested or you are required to provide the details of the relationship with the tenderer. So in my instance, I'm going to say no. The second statement is tenderer receives or has received any direct or indirect subsidy from another tenderer. If yes, you give an explanation. You give the details of that relationship. For in my instance, I'm going to say no. The third statement is tenderer has the same legal representative as another tenderer. If yes, you give the name of that legal representative. So in my instance, I say no. Tenderer has a relationship with another tenderer directly or through common third parties that put it in position to influence the tender or another tenderer or influence the decision of the procuring entity regarding this tender. I choose the appropriate one and say no. Any of the tenderer affiliate participated as a consultant in the preparation of the design or the technical specification of the works that are in subject of this tender? No. Tender has a close business or family relationship with a staff of the procuring entity. Remember when I had said, I had input the name of Juma Musa and the relationship was my son? If that is the same, I'll come here and say yes. If you have a relative that works in that procuring entity, kindly be declaring that in the tender document. But in my instance, I'm going to say no. The last statement is, has the conflict stemming from such a relationship stated in item 6 above, has been resolved in a manner acceptable to the procuring entity throughout the tendering process and execution. Since on item number 6, I said no, automatically on the item number 7, I'll come and say no. So for all my responses are no, so I'm not obligated to give in an explanation on the far right of this segment. So the last bit on this is to sign off. The statement reads, we confirm that in the information given above is correct, and we understand that giving false information will lead to disqualification of our tender. My answer is yes. Again, I sign off as the director. And again, I click on the date I'm filling this document. And I click submit. So we have filled in number 2. We go to number 3, the schedule of requirement forms. We open it. The schedule of requirement, this is where you as a supplier are required to tell the PE if you win this, if you are given this contract and you win the tender, when do you intend to do delivery of the items that they require? There's a serial number, the UNSP code, the UNSP item description, the personal computers, description of goods, works, or services. On this instance is goods, unit of issue, the quantity required, the earliest delivery date when the PE require these items to be delivered is on the 30th October 2025. Latest delivery date is November 14th, 2025. So you as a supplier are required to work within these 2 dates. The earliest the PE require these items is October 30th. Latest is November 14th. So for me, having looked at these dates, I can comfortably supply these items on November 10th. and I click on the embedded calendar, and I choose the date when I feel that I can be able to, after winning the tender, I can be able to do delivery. So I click on the date. I'm through with the table A, schedule of requirements. Table B, schedule of requirements and technical specification. So these are the technical specifications that are required by the PE for personal computers. I read through them and I feel that I can comfortably conform to this technical requirement. So I come and click yes. Once I'm done, I click submit. I go back to bid preparation. Remember, we said we are going to spend a few minutes here. So I have filled in a form of tender, business questionnaire, schedule of requirement form, and I'm on the fourth one, foreign tender 40% rule. As you fill them, the status changes from pending to filled. So I click on it. The form says foreign tenderer 40% rule. So if this company that is bidding for this item is an international firm, they are obligated to fill this form showing that they have complied with the 40% rule, where they're supposed to come and corroborate with the nationals of this republic in ensuring that 40% of the labor source material they're using is coming from this republic. So they're expected to fill. The first one is the local labor. Where did they get the local labor from? Let's say, for example, they were importing. So for offloading, they needed people to do offloading from the ship to their mode of transportation. So maybe here they'll come and say Mombasa. The cost they incurred, and the currency, and comment if any. The second one is subcontract from local sources. Let's say, for example, they hired transportation from our local transporters. They will come and input the same the details they have incurred. So let's say, for example, describe location of source. Let's say Mombasa. The cost they incurred 50,000 delivery cost. Currency, Kenya shillings, and the comment here is transport. Local material. Again, describe location of source, Mombasa. Cost, 20,000. Currency, Kenya shillings. Local material that was used, packaging. They bought packaging material from the local market. Use of local plant and equipment. Again, the location is Mombasa. Unit cost, they give a cost to that service. Currency, Kenya shillings. Comment of any, let's say, for example, cranes. They used cranes to carry the goods. Any other information, add any other items that they might have used to do delivery to this item. But since my company has been registered in the Kenyan market, I'm not obligated to fill this information. This table only applies to the foreign companies. So I'm going to remove everything I had filled in because it does not apply to me, as my company is registered in the Kenyan market. So in this instance, if you are a supplier registered in the Kenyan government, you'll just need to submit. You are not obligated to fill anything there because you're not a foreign, but the foreign companies are required. This is a mandatory field for them to fill. Bid preparation, again, quotation submission table. I click on it. In the live environment, this document will not be there, but for the purposes of filling this form, let me just input it. So my product was 125,000. That's the unit cost. The second is a tender summary table, 125, 1, 2, 3. That's the unit price of the cost of the item I propose to supply to this PE. The capacity building rate, applicable taxes, and it will give me a total tender price. Kindly note it has added the three parameters. That is the total tender price exclusive of taxes. It has added capacity building levy, and then the total taxes to give me the total tender price. So I'm going to submit. I go back to the bid preparation and I fill in the evaluation criteria as the PE required it to. So on the first evaluation criteria, the type of processor, the minimum specification is ICO 7. The fourth column is the bidder's response. Am I able to conform to this criteria as requested by the PE? I come and say yes, and give a remark. So I can say, remember the query I had input in the first, when we were doing bid submission? I have a computer that has the same capacity as the one that is requested by the PE. So I can come and paste the computer I intend to supply that is within the minimum specification. Here you can explain yourself further with the item that you intend to supply. The screen size is the second parameter, and they require a computer that has 14-inch. Am I able to comply? Is my item able to comply with that specification? I come and say yes. Display, the screen display, they require touch. I can come and say yes. And then I say with additional keypad. So you are providing a computer that is able for touch screen, but you are giving them an additional keypad for these computers. The CPU they require the one that is removable. So I come and say, yes, mine falls within this criteria. The procuring entity has gone ahead and asked you to attach a brochure. So you come and say, yes, I will show you where to attach. And then you say attached. Once you say that, you submit. And since this parameter required you to upload a brochure, you come to the upload document. You see this upload document, you click on it and you upload. You click on upload, you choose a file, you attach your brochures, and you say, you describe desktop, computer, brochure. And then you click upload. You go back to the bid preparation. You see the document that we have uploaded, the brochure, is shown on the reference document. Under the reference document, we have attached a brochure as requested by the procuring entity. So remember, we had requested our bank to give us a tender security. So if I come and fill in the price, let me go back. Bid preparation. We have already filled the non-financial forms. As you can see, all of them has the status of filled. We are satisfied with what we have filled. So the last bit we need to fill is the financial forms. It has the price bid. The action required is filling, the status is pending. So I come, I fill. Remember when we did our price without the capacity building levy and applicable taxes? So my price bid here will be different as had been calculated when I had included the price, the unit price, the capacity building levy, and the applicable taxes. So through my calculation, it will be 125, 237.5. It will give me the total price. It will be the unit price times the quantity. Remember, this price is inclusive of taxes and the capacity building levy. If I submit this document, it is telling me that I have not paid for the tender security. So what I do is I go back to the fourth tab, that was the tender security. Remember, you as a supplier, you have already talked to your bank manager of the system, telling them that you have submitted a request for a tender security. You have already done the negotiations on how much you're supposed to pay. You have an agreement, and the bank has processed your bid security. So you will come and you can view the tender security issuance request. You click on it. You can see it was a request for tender security of amount of 500 shillings for personal computer. It gives you the request reference number. If you need to follow up on the bank, you have a request reference number. It also shows you the bank you sent that request to, the branch, the validity period, the remarks that you typed, the tender security amount, the currency, the person who requested, the date you requested and time, and the person who has approved that request on the other end. Since you can see the status has been approved. So my bank has already approved for me the tender security request, but I'm yet to agree to it. So you will come to the process tender security details. You click on it. Kindly remember you have to process. You have to accept the terms and conditions that you have discussed with your bank of the system. So if you agree, you accept to the terms that the bank had you have negotiated on, you will come and click accept, and your remark will be bid security accepted. Remember, it's showing you the request number for that part. Remember, as a supplier, you'll be having a number of these requests through the many tenders that you're going to be participating in. So always ensure that the reference number you are accepting is for the one that you had requested on. This is going to require you to be doing a lot of cross-referencing. So you accept, the action is accept, and you have to give a remark and say submit. Once you click on that accept, your bank will get a notification that you have accepted their terms and conditions, And the amount of money that you had agreed on for that bid security is going to be deducted from your account by this bank. Remember, you can only buy a bid security from a bank where you have an account and a relationship with. If no, you don't have an account, you must have deposited some amount of money for you to be able to process your bid security. Remember, the EGP platform will not be accepting hard copy of bid security. It has to be done through the system. So once I have processed my tender security, now I can come back and finish my price bid. As I have shown you, remember the EGP platform will not allow you to fill in the price bid form until you have processed your tender security through your bank, negotiated it with your bank, paid for it and processed it in the system. So now I can fill in my price. As you can see, depending on the quantity that was required by a PE, it has given me the total tender price. So this part is it's just a one-line item. So I click on submit. The bidding form submitted successfully. So if I open on my bid preparation form, the non-financial, I have filled all of them. Where I needed to attach a document, I have attached. The price bid, I have filled all of it. And also always remember you can view, you can edit, you can also delete, and you can upload a document. So that section is done. So the only thing remaining now is to do final submission. Once you click on the final submissions, it gives you an overview of what you have been doing. It will show you the non-financial forms as you filled them, the price, the financial form, the price bid form, the status is filled, and then certificate verification. The first verification certificate that you need to verify is the BRS registration number. So the EGP system has been integrated with the BRS system. So I say verify. I click on verify. If the BRS is still valid, the BRS system will verify the certificate number and the status will be verified. The second verification that will be done and that has been integrated is our KRA system. So our PIN number is here. I'll need to verify. I click verify and the status will be verified. Then we have the tender submission history. I have not submitted this document before, so no records can be found. Now, once I'm satisfied that I've filled in all the parameters correctly and I'm satisfied, I will click on final submission. And you're supposed to input that OTP before you finished final submission. So on my instance, I'm going to click on verify. So it tells me my bid has been submitted successfully, and it gives you an IP address on where you have submitted that tender from. If within the course of the period before the time of submitting tenders is over, I can do a bid withdrawal. If I click on bid withdrawal, I give a remark. Remember, you can withdraw your bid due to a number of reasons. Maybe before the tender closes, you have realized that the price you have been put, or you have gotten a place where you have gotten a cheaper deal, or you feel that you do not want to participate in this tender again. You can do there are so many reasons as to why you can withdraw your bid. So for me, I'm withdrawing due to price change in price, and I say submit. Are you sure you want to withdraw your bid? I can do yes or no. So if I say yes, my bid is withdrawn, and I can come and do another submission. I can come and change anything within the tender document and now do a final submission, or leave it. If I do not intend to participate in that tender, I can withdraw from the bid. I have been requested to repeat on the tender security. So I click on the tender security, and the parameter here are view tender security insurance request, view tender security details, tender security withdrawal request. So you can withdraw your tender security and give a reason. Any reason as to why you want to withdraw the tender security. I withdraw my bid, so I want to also withdraw my bid security, so I submit. So I can come back to the tender security. Remember, once you view in the tender security, once I have withdrawn the tender security, my bank also has to release my request from the other side. As we wait for my bank to respond to my tender security withdrawal request, you can come to the bid preparation and edit any parameter that you feel that you require additional information. Remember, there is a form of tender, confidential business questionnaire, schedule of requirement, the foreign tenderer 40% rule, quotation submission table. Remember, I have said in the live environment, this parameter has been withdrawn, and we only have a price bid form. So once you log in, as you are participating in the various tenders that are going to be coming up, if you do not see the quotation submission table, kindly do not worry. This has been withdrawn from the live environment, and we have a price schedule document. I repeat, once you log in into the live environment and you find a tender that you feel that you can comfortably participate in, you're not going to find a quotation submission table, but you will find a price bid form. So let's go back to the tender security to see if my tender security has been withdrawn. So there are a number of parameters that are populated. Submit tender security insurance request, tender security insurance request, view tender security details, view tender security withdrawal request, view tender security withdrawal details. Remember, we have withdrawn the security we had given earlier. So we need, this tender requires a tender security. So we cannot submit it without submitting a tender security. So where we are going to go is select item. We are going to repeat. Remember, somebody has requested we repeat the process of tender security. So the first instance you do is select item for tender security. It's going to populate all the items that the PE intends to buy through this tender. If there are more than 5, if there are 5 items, you select the items you feel you want to participate in. But in this instance, the PE had only requested for 1 item. I click on select. I select that item. It gives me, if I unselect, see here, the tender item summary is 0. The total amount is 0. But once I select a parameter here, the item summary becomes only 1 item was selected, and the tender amount, the total amount is 500, as had been requested by the tender security amount. I click submit. Once you submit the tender security, you will not be able to modify the items. Are you sure you want to proceed? Yes. The financial institution, you come here and say you want to, which bank you want to send this tender to. And yes, you can do insurance as has been passed by the PPRA website. We have that list of compliant insurance companies and banks that have been registered within the boundaries of Kenya through the CBK. Yes, banks and insurance are allowed. And if you can request a bank that you do not bank with. But remember, you must have had a prior arrangement with that bank. Maybe you bought a, what are they called? Banker's check with them. You have already negotiated beforehand. You have a banker's check with them, so you can, or you can request, go pay for the amount that is required, and they'll be able to issue with a bank security. So for my bank, this company banks with ABSA Kenya, and all the Kenyan banks and insurance will populate in the financial institution. Your work will just to pick where your bank is or where you have prior arrangement with the bank or insurance company. So all of them will populate here, as you can see. They're quite a number. So you select the bank that you either bank with or you have a prior arrangement with. If your financial institution is not found, you'll click on not found. And then you have to type in the details. But in my instance, my bank is here. So I say ABSA. I'm required to select the branch. My branch is Queensway House Branch. The tender security amount is 500 shillings. The currency is Kenya shillings. And there is the request. I can type in my request as I require it. I will mention the procuring entity where the tender is from, the amount, the tender reference number, and the tender description, just like we used to do in the hard copy document. The validity, you can choose to extend the validity, the number of days you want, and then you click submit. Are you sure you want to upload the tender security details? I click yes. As I wait, remember it has given me the reference document. As I wait for the bank to process the tender so that I can be able to do a final submission. So I check if my tender security has been processed by my bank, and yes, it has. I can view the tender security request. Now I need to process the tender security details. Remember, this is where you are accepting the terms and conditions as you have discussed with your bank. So the action required here is accept. You can also send for clarification or correction. Maybe the procuring entity has issued an addendum and it has requested you extend the validity period. So you can send a correction. Maybe you had requested for 120 days and the procuring entity has requested, has done an addendum asking for a longer validity period, let's say for 180 days, 210 days, whatever request the procuring entity has done an addendum with. You can come back to request your bank for correction / clarification, whereby if you click on request for clarification, you type in the request that you require this bank to say. Let's say, for example, add the validity period. You send it to your bank. Also do that communication offline so that you know they know that your request is pending on their end and they can be able to process it. So in my instance, I'm going to accept. I do not require, no addendum has been done, so I do not need to do a clarification. So my remarks here will be bid security. Accepted. And you do submit. Kindly note the process for bank and the insurance is just the same. You will only need to select the insurance company where you intend to get your bid security. And if they have branch, you select the branch and the process is the same. It does not matter whether you're sending your bid security request to a bank or insurance, the process is the same. So I have accepted my bid security. So I can come. Remember, once you accept the bid security, you'll come and see if it has done any changes to your price bid. If the price bid is still filled, you submit. And then you click on final submission. Remember, we had verified our BRS. We had verified our KRA certificate. Now, on the bid submission history, you can see it shows that I had done a bid final submission on 18th at 12:47. And this is the IP address that I was using. It also shows when I withdraw the bid, the date and the time. And also the IP address that I was using. So you click, for this instance, now I'm comfortable, and I click submit. I input my one-time password as the system will be sending this. Remember, the system will be sending you OTP passwords every time you need to submit a document or to log in. So I'm doing final submission. It has sent me my OTP. I verify, and it tells me bid submitted successfully from this IP address. So now the only remaining part is for, you have done a final submission, is to wait for the period. This period here. Remember, I have opened the notice, the end time, and also when they are going to do the opening. So once we have done our final submission, we'll just have to wait for the key dates as had been put by the PE, when the tender will close and when the opening will be done, so that we can get to see who submitted their bids, the prices they submitted them. That information is going to be provided as the tender, the bid opening is being done. Now, on the tender security, kindly note that you cannot upload a tender security. It will be processed electronically. I repeat, you cannot upload a tender security. The tender security will come from your bank electronically. You do not need to upload it. There is nowhere you'll be downloading it, and there is nowhere you'll be uploading it. This system is a seamless system between you as the supplier and your bank, and the communication for that security will be done electronically. You can withdraw your bid as many times as you want, but if the time of end submission date, you cannot withdraw your bid after this time, after the tender submission end date and time. Once you submit your tender, you have done the final submission, and you have done your final submission. Let's say you advertise a tender today, and by tomorrow you have been able to gather all the information required, and you can do your tender submission by tomorrow. And maybe the tender will be opened in 14 days. Until that period of tender closing and opening has reached, no one, absolutely no one, can open your bid. The data is encrypted. It is only available to the procuring entity once they are doing the tender opening. Remember, the opening will be done electronically, and it will be done at the same time for all the bids that have been submitted. Until the tender opening period has reached, no bid can be opened. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is how you prepare and submit your tender. What happens when the tender, there's an addendum issued? If there's an addendum issued extending bid submission, and you want to withdraw your bid, you can withdraw just as we have shown you. Do the necessary that you need to input. Maybe you need to input additional information. Maybe you need to change something. You can do that. But after the period, the closing period has reached, kindly note you cannot be able to do your bid withdrawal. For those who are asking about tender supplier registration, kindly note that we are going to prepare a training on bid, on what is it called? Supplier registration. But if you go to the live environment, there's a link that has been given on how to register for supplier training. Kindly click on that link and it is going to give you further information. On the live environment, there's a link that shows a link on supplier submission. Kindly fill in your details. As there's a form. Once you open that, that link, it's going to give you a form. Populate your details. And material that you require for that training will be submitted, or you will be informed when we are going to do a training on supplier registration. Kindly note, today and tomorrow, we are doing training on bid submission. Next week, but one, we'll be doing a training on contract management. Kindly note that visit the live environment, the EGP page. You will find a link. Click on the link, input your details. You will receive training material, and you will be informed when we will be doing training on supplier registration. How do we do tenders that are available? You will, let me log out to show you, okay, let me open on another window. Once you go to the home page looks something like this. The first tab is the tenders. So if you click on the tenders, you will see all the active tenders that have been advertised by various procuring entities. It has the active tab, the closed tab, the terminated tab, and the opened bids. So on this is a training environment. We have 28 tenders. Closed, we have 1,894. Terminated, we have 1. Open bids, we have 1,891. This is on the tender tab. It shows the active tenders, the closed tenders, terminated tab, terminated, and the bids that have been opened. So again, when you log in onto the live environment, you are going to find a tab that says tenders. You have one for contract, procuring entities, the suppliers that have been registered in the EGP platform. And remember, we talked about the procurement plans for various procuring entities, where you can click on it and see various annual procurement plans as they have been published by various procuring entities. So this is a tab that is going to be very important to you suppliers. You can open the procurement plans of various entities, and you can be able to plan on what some of these entities will be buying. Let's say, for example, I open APP number 6. This is for State Department for Petroleum. You click on the app. So you can see this APP summary, that's the annual procurement summary. This is the Ministry of Petroleum. You can see the number of items they want to purchase. You can view in the APP summary and also the items summary. So if you are to come to the item summary, you will see the first item they will buy is printing and writing papers. They require, those are the quantities they require, the estimated cost, the total cost, the procurement method they intend to use, the reservation group, the particular reservation group, and how they intend to buy these items in the 4 quarters of a financial year. I believe this information is communicating something to you because, for example, if you are a woman, you deal with AGPO, You can tell that this department will be requiring office supplies in an estimated unit cost of 20,000. Total cost is 2 million. The method of procurement they intend to use is request for quotation. The reservation group is AGPO, and they have populated this item to the 3 AGPO group, that is the women, youth, and person with disability. They have also populated when they intend to buy these goods in the 4 quarters that we have in a financial year. So if you fall in this category, you can be on the lookout for the procuring entity to float these tenders, and you can participate in them. You can visit, I go back, you can also go to another entity and look at the various plans as they have been published by the various procuring entities. So there's a question about linkage of the EGP and the PPRA complaint platform. Kindly note that that is work in progress, and by the time we are starting the tendering process, that integration will have already been complete, whereby if you need to raise a complaint due to an outcome of any procurement proceeding or procurement process, it will just be a click of a button and you can be able to raise your complaint with the PPRA office. If any supplier is having a challenge when registering their company, would advise you to call our call help center. Let me read for you the number that you need to call. A minute, just let me populate that number. The number to call is 020 33 41 030. I repeat, 020 33 41 030. Phone number 2, 020 33 40 400. 020 33 40 400. And the third number is 020 33 40 433. You can also drop an email at our address, support@egpkenya.go.ke. I repeat, our email address is support@egpkenya.go.ke. I repeat the phone numbers again, 020 33 41 030, 020 33 41 030, 020 33 40 400, and the last one, 020 33 40 433. We have also given you our email address, support@egpkenya.go.ke. Also, suppliers are encouraged to visit our EGP system website. That is www.egpkenya.go.ke and /news. You can also pay us a visit at the Kisim Towers, Ngong Road, on the 4th floor, and you'll be directed on which room to go to. I repeat, you can also visit our office at Kisim Towers, Ngong Road, 4th floor, and you'll be directed on the rooms that you'll be assisted. Thank you very much for attending our training today. We value your feedback and we value your participation. Thank you very much. Kindly be on the lookout for other trainings that the National Treasury will be doing on a weekly basis so that we are able to support you in participating in all government opportunities in matters regarding tenders so that we can work together. Thank you very much. And with that, we would like to sign off on our training today. And the questions that are being raised on the platform will continue being answered. And kindly feel free to engage us and see how we can all help each other. Asanteni sana na Mungu awabariki.
Nakupigia